Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor, Skip Henderson. City Manager, Isaiah Hughley. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Toya Tucker, District 4. Charmaine Crabb, District 5. Gary Allen, Mayor Pro Tem and District 6.
Joanne Kogel, District 7.
Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large counselor.
Tyson Bagley, Post 10, at-large counselor.
Sandra Davis, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Thank you for being here. We'll call to order the June 4th City Council meeting. We'll begin this meeting as we do all of our meetings here in the council chambers, and that is to invoke God's presence on these proceedings. Is Pastor Bruce Connage here from Rose Hill? Pastor, come forward, please. Thank you for being here. Good evening, sir.
Almighty and kind God, we give you thanks and praise for all your mighty works. You are loving and good and gracious. Thank you for creating us and sustaining us day by day. Thank you that you made us in your image to exist in communion with other people. We thank you for our elected officials of businesses, the churches, the families, and the individuals that make our city the great place it is. I pray for this council meeting today. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate on items before them. May every decision be made righteous in your sight for our benefit and for your glory. In the name of our Father and our Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Pastor, thank you, sir, for your words, and thank you for what you and Rose Hill Memorial Baptist Church do in Columbus, Georgia. All right, we'll now ask you to join me in a pledge to our flag, if you please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go through the mayor's agenda, but at 6 o'clock we will break from what we're doing to have the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights public hearing as close to 6 as we can kind of make that happen. Motion and second to approve the minutes from the meeting of May 28th. Any edits or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, they are approved. I've been informed that the oath of office for Mr. Hickey will be delayed, and we'll bring him back and bring that back here over the next, I guess, couple of weeks. I know he was able to be sworn in by the probate judge yesterday, but he needs to be sworn in by the Superior Court judge, and that has been delayed. All right, we've got a couple of proclamations. And the first one, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, is to celebrate and recognize Brookstone High School's state baseball championship. Coach Mathis, if you and the players want to come up here around this podium.
Thank you, Mayor. While they're coming, I would just like to say that by publishing the proclamation, this adds Brookstone's state championship team to the archives of Columbus, Georgia. And it reads as follows: whereas it is with great honor that we, the citizens of Columbus, Georgia, acknowledge the monumental achievement of Brookstone High School baseball team. And whereas on May 20th, the Brookstone High School baseball team, competing in the highest classification in Georgia Independent Athletic Association 4A, won the Region 5 championship this season. And whereas the dedication and leadership of Brookstone's coaching staff has been instrumental in guiding this team to this historic moment, instilling in them the values of determination, sportsmanship, and excellence. And whereas the team set a Brookstone baseball record for the most wins in a season, 28. And whereas the team went undefeated through the playoffs to end up 28-5. And whereas the Brookstone baseball team won their first state championship since 1981, 43 years ago. And whereas let it be known to all the Brookstone Cougars, that the Brookstone Cougars have exemplified the spirit of perseverance, teamwork, and excellence, bringing honor and glory to their school, their community, and the city of Columbus. Now, therefore, the Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, Skip Henderson, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, as Brookstone Cougars State Championship Day.
Coach, you'll say a few words?
Well, really, we just want to appreciate you guys for recognizing us. It's been a long season, and it's been a real fun one. We had a great group of seniors this year. Hopefully, we can get another one before another 43 years goes by. Because I hope, but you know, it's been a great year, and we've had a couple of parties and a couple of recognition things, but this right here just caps it off, and we appreciate and thank everything you guys do for the city of Columbus. Thank you very much. We're very honored.
Well, Coach, just let me say, of course, I've known Greg for a lot of years, but guys, congratulations, and we want to thank you. We want to thank you for the way you represented yourselves, your school, your family, your fans, and we want to thank you for putting in the work that not everybody's willing to do to be able to achieve what you've achieved. So congratulations, we're awful proud of you. If you would, come up one at a time and give us your name, and if you want to, tell us what year you're going to be in next year so we'll know which one of you coming back.
Well, we had the thing about being good, you know, you have to, this baseball and Skip, me and you've known each other a long time, played against each other in a lot of sports, but this baseball has become a year-round thing. So we've got some guys that are already playing summer league and doing all that, are out of town. But these are the guys. I'm going to let my coaches come up first because I had a really good coaching staff. I've got 3 guys missing. Jeremy Mack, my son Tyler Mathis, and then my other son Camden. I was real fortunate to get to work with my sons coaching this year, so that's been a plus. But I couldn't have done it without these other 2 guys too. So I'm going to let them start, and then we'll go with the players.
Matt Dormady, pitching coach. Mr. Allen, how you doing? Appreciate everything y'all do. Proud of these guys, and I couldn't say any more, any less about what they accomplished this year. Super proud of them.
Nate McConnell, work with the infielders. Thank you for having us. These guys are a great group of men, and they got great families. And I'm overly impressed with the dedication and the support that not only these guys have shown, but also their families. So thank you very much.
I'm Charles Briscoe, and I'm a rising senior.
I'm Mercer Hudson. I'm a rising senior.
I'm Dylan Johnson. I'm a rising junior.
My name's Will Turner, and I'm a rising senior.
My name's Fuller Jones, and I just graduated.
My name is Cole Stansel, and I just graduated too. I just wanted to say thank y'all for everything that y'all do for us.
Brett Novleski, I just graduated.
Matt Dismuke, and I also just graduated.
Brendan Neal, rising sophomore.
Ben Ivy, rising sophomore.
Luke Vale, Rising Junior.
I'm Bo Christopher, Rising Senior.
I'm Shiner Kim, Rising Senior.
Do we have one more? Did they get everybody? Well, listen, you guys put in a lot of work, but if you don't mind, we're going to recognize the folks that really worked hard. So if you're a parent or a grandparent of these youngins, how about stand and let us give you a hand for pouring into these young people? Thank y'all. It's hard to build fences around children these days, and y'all have done a great job by keeping them involved in sports. And Greg, congratulations. If y'all would come around, let us shake your hand and congratulate you again. Yes, sir. Good to see you. Good to see you. Great job. Great job. Great job. Congratulations. Great job. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great work. Yes, sir. Good work. Good work. Congratulations, Jimmy. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Congratulations. Well, that's a pretty good way to kick off a meeting. All right, we've got a couple of other proclamations. One to Councilor Begley is going to present a proclamation to NeighborWorks Columbus for NeighborWorks Columbus Week. Is Ms. Williams here? And y'all come on up. Councilor Begley, if you'd hit your light, please, sir. There you go.
It's my honor to read this into the record. Whereas in 1984, National NeighborWorks Week was initiated by a United States congressional resolution co-sponsored by more than 260 members of Congress and signed by President Ronald Reagan. And whereas the formal introduction of National NeighborWorks Week occurred in the spring of 1986, which began an annual national celebration held the first through the second Saturday in June. And whereas National NeighborWorks Week is a celebration of neighborhood pride and unity among organizations in more than 2,500 urban, suburban, and rural communities across the country. And whereas National NeighborWorks Week celebrates the efforts of local organizations working with partners and volunteers to create healthier communities. And whereas for 25 years, NeighborWorks Columbus, a NeighborWorks America organization, has worked in Columbus, Georgia, and has assisted more than 3,500 families in securing safe, fit, and affordable housing. Now, therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson III, Mayor of Columbus, does hereby proclaim June 1st through 8th, 2024 as NeighborWorks Columbus Week.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was in 1997 that Councilor Evelyn Turner Pugh called for an inner-city visit of Columbus to replace the Chamber's annual inner-city visit elsewhere. She said it was time for us to look hard at Columbus. And so she put together with leadership the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly tour. I was on that in 1997, as were many people who have been involved over the last 25 years with NeighborWorks Columbus. And that's where we were birthed, from that tour that Evelyn Pugh asked this city to consider. I think this is our 22nd NeighborWorks Week proclamation. We have a collection. It has been an honor to serve this community and their housing needs that we have. It's not over. We have a lot of work still to do. I look forward to working with this administration and future administrations in the endeavor to house adequately all of our residents. Of course, it wasn't me. It was a team. It was a cadre of the most professional, passionate, just excellent staff members that believe every day in the mission of providing housing to families with limited housing choices, and it has been probably over 100 board members that have served on our board. So thank you. I'd like to ask the members of the team that are here to introduce themselves and their position.
I'm Sherry Lambert. I'm the CFO.
Noni Milner, Business Development Specialist.
Gary Mosley, Policy Research Analyst.
This is just a couple of our 15 staff who, like I said, every day show up at work believing that they can make a difference in our families' lives. Thank you for the recognition. I do appreciate it.
Ms. Williams, thank you so much for what you do and what you and your staff does. Y'all do an incredible job. If you will, come up here, let us thank you, and I've got a couple to add to your collection. All right, and the next proclamation we have is going to be read by Councilor Huff, and it's for Caribbean American Heritage Month. And Aisha Bay, how are you? Y'all please come forward to the podium. Councilor Huff.
Thank you.
They brought their own proclamation.
Thank you for thinking about me. Thank you all for being here and for all you do before I read it. A lot of people don't know, but I see you around town and all that goes on. So I'm gonna read the proclamation into record. Whereas June is nationally and federally recognized as Caribbean American Heritage Month, highlighting significant contributions to the cultural, social, and economic tapestry of the United States. And whereas Caribbean American Heritage Month provides us an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the rich history, diverse traditions, and outstanding achievements of the Caribbean Americans. And whereas throughout the history of Columbus, Georgia, individuals of the Caribbean descent have played vital roles in shaping our neighborhoods, businesses, and arts, from restaurants to entertainment to human resources. Services. Columbus has been enriched by individuals of Caribbean descent providing for our community. And whereas the values of unity and resilience embodied by the Caribbean American community inspire and strengthen the bonds of our multicultural society. And whereas it is fitting that we honor the invaluable contributions and enduring legacy of Caribbean Americans by dedicating the month of June as Caribbean American Heritage Month in the great city of Columbus, Georgia. Now therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson III, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, do hereby proclaim June 2024 as Caribbean American Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you recognizing this month. It's super huge to me. In my heritage, I'm Jamaican and Cuban, but I am here representing our organization that kind of has supported me and really welcomed me to Columbus. This is 6 months here, so I'm super excited to be living here. My fiance brought me here. But what I'll let them do is go one by one and kind of introduce themselves, and then we got a couple events we will share with you guys.
Hello, Council. My name is Brendan Merritt. I'm the lead instructor, and I also have Caribbean heritage. My people are Panamanian, and one major thing about Columbus is there is a lot of Panamanians that are around that I got to learn my heritage from. Whenever I came back here after college, I get to continue my heritage with this club.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Kevin Clements. I've only been here for 2.5 years. I moved from Atlanta, but I'm a dance student, and it has made a big difference in the enrichment of my life. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Mo Jackson. I am the head instructor, founder of Bailamo. It's a dance company that we founded here. It's basically a supplement of Seatown Salsa, which I also helped to run. We've been doing this for 13 years, teaching salsa and bachata in this town, and it's been a wonderful time. Is it time? Okay. Okay. What I wanted to say was that I'm personally not Caribbean, but I support 100% every culture that comes in to salsa and bachata dance, because it is the dance itself is a culture, it's its own culture. Every culture comes to learn how to dance, and we all combine together and we celebrate together for the love of dance.
I was just getting ready to ask if you all would, I don't know how many are interested, but if you would email us a schedule of what you have going.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You said you had a few dates you wanted to mention.
Yes, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I was pulling them up on my phone real quick. So we have Lady Styling, which is, you get to do salsa, but in more of a feminine way if you're interested in learning those kinds of things. So I actually have the privilege of teaching that this coming Saturday, my birthday weekend. And then we also have our spins workshop that's happening. So a bunch of different little workshops to kind of help our students to kind of learn different things that they can do while they're dancing. That's the 22nd. The big thing that we have the whole community come out to is June 15th, which is going to be our Salsa on the Rooftop, Hotel Indigo, right down the street. So if you're interested, it's a really great time. There's dancing like from 6 to 10. It's super fun. Everyone's out there. If you don't know how to dance, that's totally okay. Just come out, meet everyone, have a good time. But there's a lot of us that are out there that are always celebrating our heritage, celebrating our culture, and everything that we do. And then we usually, if you don't see us, sometimes we're outside every Thursday. Me and my fiance, and sometimes our CEO and founder, period. She is out there sometimes too, helping us with lessons that we do. Starting at about 7, we do a little lesson, and then everyone from the community just kind of comes and dances and have a good time. So, and then I am the studio manager, and I also teach as well. So.
Is there a website?
Go ahead,
sorry.
go ahead.
Is there a website that
Yes,
we
so
can go to?
it's bailamodance.com.
Was that your group down in the 1100 block of Broadway the other day?
That's us right there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I almost hit somebody. I slowed down to see what was going on.
We try to be careful. Okay, we got permits.
You all were having fun.
Yeah, we try to be
Good time.
careful.
Yeah.
And I like to call that that's my after work job.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Well,
I
you already
appreciate
have your proclamation, but if you would come around, let us thank you
Of
for what
course.
you do.
it. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Yes, ma'am. Good job bringing her to Columbus, right? Good to see you. Yes, good to see you. Well, Mr. City Attorney, I guess it's 5 minutes till 6. Is that close enough to work?
There we go. That'll work, Mayor. We will make sure we drag it out at least 5 minutes. This is a hearing, the second of 3 required under OCGA 48-5-32.1. That's a long number, but what it really means is the council has to have a hearing anytime the projected value of the property in the county, the tax digest, whenever it's projected to increase in value, they've got to run this ad in the paper talking about the rollback rate, which is another complicated definition. But it means that our property values as a county as a whole are projected to go up. If you have a homestead assessment freeze, your taxes should not be affected. Ms. Alexander, you want to add anything?
Good evening. As the Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. As the City Attorney mentioned, we are performing our statutory requirements in terms of advertising and holding what's known as the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. The first Taxpayer Bill of Rights meeting was this morning in these council chambers. That meeting began at 9 a.m. This is the second meeting for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. The third meeting will be next Tuesday, June 11th at 9 a.m., also a part of the regular council meeting. But there are two types of increases that may cause some adjustment to the tax digest. There are inflationary increases, and where you have the reassessment of property value based on sales. There's also changes to the tax digest when we have new or improved properties come onto the tax rolls. And so what that does from our standpoint is creates an organic increase in the tax digest or the valuation of the tax digest. And so we are required by law when a millage rate has been proposed as the mayor's recommended budget, proposed a millage rate for urban service districts 1, 2, and 4. Now those millage rates are the same millage rates that were approved and adopted by the council last fiscal year for FY24. For urban service district 1, the total millage rate was 16.07 mills. For urban service district 2, the total millage rate was 10.09 mills. And for urban service district 4, the total millage rate was 9.19 mills. So there is no change in the millage rate or the tax rate that has been proposed by the mayor for consideration for the council's approval. There is, however, a change in the value of the tax digest because of these inflationary increases due to property sales, as well as new or improved properties coming onto the tax rolls. So when there are new or improved properties coming onto the tax digest, creating this increase in the digest, the tax commissioner is required to calculate what's known as a rollback millage rate. The rollback millage rate is simply a millage rate that determines what we could assess in terms of the tax rate to collect the same dollar amount of tax revenue from this year's digest with those new properties or improved properties that we received in total revenue from last year's digest that may have been at a lower amount. So there were advertisements that were put in the paper today for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, specifically for Urban Service District number 2, what the calculated rate, rollback millage rate is for Urban Service District 2 amounts to about a 4.25% increase in terms of the valuation of the digest. Now, if you have homestead exemption, as the city attorney mentioned, your valuation is frozen. And because the tax rate is unchanged, if you do not have a homestead on your property, If the assessed value is the same this year as it was last year, then there would be no change in the property tax that you would be responsible for owing. So there is one hiccup, though. I do have to make reference to it because it was a question that came up as part of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing from this morning, was that homeowner tax relief grant that the state afforded to Georgia homeowners last year. That was a one-time grant in which the state provided some relief and a reduction in the taxes that you owed, that you paid personally. So that was a one-time grant that is not and will not be on your property tax bills this year. But from the city's standpoint, if your valuation is frozen, or if your property value has the same assessment as last year, because there is no change in the tax rate, the property taxes that you owe remains the same.
Counselor Tucker?
Can you repeat the actual millage rate, the current millage rate?
Well, the total millage rate for Urban Service District, total millage rate for Urban Service District 1 is 16.07 mills. That includes the debt service millage. The total millage rate for Urban Service District 2 is 10.09 mills. And the total millage rate for Urban Service District 4 is 9.19 mills.
Okay. Counselor Thomas?
Ms. Alexander, you have mentioned a couple of times urban service districts 1, 2, and 4. Would you just generally tell us what parts of Muskogee County those urban districts are, and why is there a difference in the millage rate in each of those 3 urban service districts?
Yes, ma'am.
These are not council districts. These are urban service districts.
That's correct. And so Urban Service District 1 largely encompasses Muskogee, what's known as Muskogee County. Most of the county is in Urban Service District 1. Urban Service District 2 is in the northern panhandle of the county. That's really out towards the Midland area. There are some parts of Urban Service District 2 that's out past the Green Island Hill area. And then Urban Service District 4 is some parcels that's on the Fort Benning Reservation.
And why is there a difference in the millage rate?
So the difference in the millage rate is based on the level of service. The assessment of the millage rate relative to police service as well as fire service differs between urban service districts based on median response times for priority 1 and priority 2 calls in reference to the police, as well as the number of mileage of paved and unpaved roads in between urban service districts 1, 2, and 4.
So it would be sort of correct to say that Urban Service District 1 is the main portion of Muskogee County.
Mm-hmm.
And Urban Service District 2, which is the Midland northern part maybe, they don't have, for example, Metro, isn't that right? They don't have many Metro routes and,
yes,
and those kinds of things. So the services
are different
in Service District 2
mm-hmm.
are less than the services in District 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager?
Madam Finance Director, we have not, and this is either true or false, but we've not had a millage rate increase in any of the service districts in more than 10 years, you would say?
That's correct.
But you've had the millage rate lowered perhaps during that same time period.
That's correct.
So no millage increase in Columbus in more than 10 years.
That's correct.
Okay, any more questions around the table? This is a public hearing. I want to see if there are any questions in the audience. Anybody in the audience have a comment or a question? Okay, everybody good around the table? Would you like to come
Yes, sir.
up? You have a
Come to
question?
Come up to the podium. No, you need to come
No,
up here.
yeah.
It's being recorded.
Yeah, give me your name and address, sir.
My name is Robert T. Rivera, and I've lived in this town since 1980. Okay, and I think it's one of the best towns ever. But I think a few things are going down. And I actually came here for, you were going to discuss the baseball. Am I correct? Golden Park? Whether you should raise taxes for that?
No, sir.
So was that another date?
No, sir. I don't think there's any plan right now for raising taxes for
I
the
see.
finance
Well,
of baseball stadium.
I understood what you were saying. Okay, what I did not understand is that you don't have a diagram in which we can actually see the districts, whether they're rural or not. I can't picture that totally, but she did mention something about having enough, correct me if I'm wrong, enough policemen or firemen to go to these districts in case of emergencies?
Years ago, that's how those urban service districts were decided. Some of those were very rural, and they didn't have garbage pickup, didn't have paved roads. There was no fire station in close proximity. There might not have been a police beat as close enough. Over the years, almost all of those have been taken care of with regards to, we've got 14 fire stations now. We're just about up to full staff on our police department. Our sheriff's department has got more folks in it than it has in the past. So there's still a reason that there's some disparity because some of the roads are still kind of narrow and people can't get their trash cans picked up without bringing them to the main road, and a few other things they're dealing with. But police protection and fire protection, we've correct me if I'm wrong, but we've pretty well.
It's adequate?
Yeah, it's more than adequate, yes, sir. It's gotten to where it's pretty equal all the way across the city.
Okay. Well, I apologize for
No,
standing
wow,
up
it's a
and
good
talking
question.
to you then.
It was a good
Thank you.
question. Yes, sir, thank you. Counselor Tucker?
Madam Finance Director, did, you mentioned that we would not have any property increases this year millage increase this year.
Right. Excuse me, that's correct. There are no proposed millage rate increases over what was approved by the council for the current fiscal year.
Which we rolled back.
That's correct.
Last year.
Mhm.
Okay, so what you mentioned, the, numbers for the three is what will be for FY '25.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if that's all the questions and comments, we will call the second taxpayer.
We skipped one individual if she's here.
Okay.
She was here for an appeal, asking for an extension. Let me find
Well,
her name.
let's conclude that hearing if that's the end of the
Yeah.
taxpayer bill of right hearing.
Yes.
Okay, that second hearing is concluded. Now we'll go on to the mayor's agenda.
All right. Is Leanne Browning here? Ms. Browning, welcome. Representing Fetch.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, honorable council members. Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are requesting a 90-day extension on our alcohol permit in order to get the food component as well.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and second to approve a 90-day extension. I think, as I heard it, it's so that y'all can complete the studies you're doing to try to make sure you meet those
That
requirements.
meet those requirements, absolutely, sir.
Okay.
So yes.
Any discussion to the motion? Yes, sir. Just,
Yes, sir.
all right, motion second to approve that 90 days. No discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Ms. Leanne, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. City Attorney, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Got a fairly lengthy agenda as we do at budget time. Got one item that we are ready for a vote on, which has to do with foreclosure of liens from demolitions and other city activities. It's continued on second reading because we had an inconclusive vote. This would allow the finance director to send an execution over to the tax commissioner and ask for inclusion in any foreclosure that she has to have conducted. It's ready for a vote.
All right, there's a motion second for approval. Counselor Kogel to the motion.
Yeah, I'd like to amend this to just cover the commercial properties to be reevaluated for a year, or in a year, and then with the potential of adding on residential properties at a later date, just so that we can make sure that this works. So that would, I guess, be my
Okay,
request.
there's a motion to amend that. There's a second to amend it. Counselor Begley to the motion.
I guess I would want to understand, I know we've been talking about this since January, February. So what are the concerns with residential?
I think if we just cover the commercial properties right now, just so that we can make sure that this works with the tax commissioner, that it works with the inspections and codes office, that we actually follow through with the ordinance prior to adding on the residential issues, or else we're just adding on another ordinance just to have an ordinance.
I mean, I guess I haven't heard we're doing it just to do an ordinance. I've heard it because I've heard multiple counselors here say, we wish we were doing this now. We should be doing it. And it's been months now and we're still not doing it. And so I don't know what other option we have than to do this, to make it happen. Can we, just to make sure that it doesn't get forgot about, can we just have an effective date for commercial versus residential, and so that it's in place, and then council would have the privilege of removing that in the next year if needed?
All right. We did. We've got Counselor Thomas wishes to speak to the motion as well.
Is this differentiation between the residential and the commercial, is that something that can be done administratively, or do we have to have a
Yeah, it can be done administratively. I think you could simply have the city manager and finance director request that the tax commissioner look first at a group of commercial property. Is that the ones you wanted to start with? Commercial first, and she could do that administratively. The finance director, if she sends any over, like, she could just send a batch of commercial properties first and do it that way. I'd rather you not separate them out in the ordinance itself.
All right, well, the recommendation from the city attorney is to allow it to be handled administratively, as stated by Counselor Thomas. but it would take a withdrawal of the motion to amend.
So parliamentary-wise, we either have that motion withdrawn or we vote down the amendment.
That's
And
correct.
then go to the main motion.
That's correct. Counselor Huff, is this to the,
This is, the discussion we had when the tax commissioner was here.
all right, oh, just a second. There you go.
There were two topics with the tax commissioner. There was a blight tax, which is not in scope for tonight. So this topic with the tax commissioner, I sent the email showing she was okay with it. And that conversation happened several months ago when David Britt was still an active part of the organization and involved with those conversations. And so she provided that. I know her comment was she didn't know if this was needed for, because it doesn't affect her, it only affects the city. And so this ordinance is specific to the city staff. And so, and to the city attorney's point, yeah, I think if we pass this, that sounds like a prudent way is to administratively just focus on the commercial to make sure that we've, for training wheels, make sure we're doing everything correctly before the staff sends over the entire list of parcels that have liens on them.
All right, we've got two motions on the floor. First, we'll entertain the motion that was offered up to amend the original motion. It was moved and seconded. Seems like no further discussion. All in, yes. Can you hit your light? All right, Counselor Kogel, if you would repeat your motion, or I can get the clerk to kind of read back what she has captured. Madam Clerk, can you read back what, from Counselor Kogel's motion?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. The motion on the floor, the substitute motion, was to amend the ordinance to only deal with commercial properties at this time.
Okay, is that accurate, Counselor Kogel?
Yes.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second for that amendment. All in
Yes.
favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, those in favor, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Those against, like sign.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, it fails because it is, well, it's inconclusive.
Right.
So the second motion is on the floor to approve. All right, any further discussion to that? Counselor Begley.
So I do want to iterate, I appreciate Counselor Kogel's approach. I understand the city attorney's advice, and so I'm trying to follow the city attorney's, I want to follow the city attorney's advice of administratively focusing on commercial so that we fulfill the intent of what Counselor Kogel is suggesting, but have it in a cleaner ordinance.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4. Not favor, I'm sorry. I'm still got a foot.
So,
Those in favor of the motion to approve. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think Counselor Garrett accidentally kept his hand raised. Would you, Counselor, I apologize, but did you vote for? Okay, so it's 4-3. 4-4? Let's vote one more time. We had a couple of same hands going up. One more time, those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Those in favor to approve.
To approve.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All those against.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, it's inconclusive.
All right, we'll bring that back. Since we had inconclusive vote, The next item is the operating budget, Mayor. This is the entire FY '25 budget with the funds listed. Total operating budget, $366,319,162. I think the city manager and others want to comment.
Okay, I think the budget chair wanted to make a comment. Councilor
Mr.
Thomas?
Mayor, this budget, I think, is one that the Budget Committee of the council can be very proud of. I think we've done a couple of things in this budget that really needed to us to take a look at. One is, I think we have provided some help, if you will, for our regular government employees, our general government employees. And one of the ways that we did that was by increasing the number of staff that was allotted to various departments, so that those folks who are in a department that there are not enough staff will have additional staff. The other thing that we did was we took a very hard look at our public safety departments, the police department, the fire and EMS, the sheriff's office, and the warden, the prison. And we made some pretty good, I think, strides in making sure that the employees in those departments are compensated and are at a rate that would be attractive to other employees coming into those departments. And that's one of the things that I think we have been trying to do. We've also looked at some of the other departments in the city, Parks and Rec, Public Works, the Integrated Waste, the IT department, all of them. I think we have tried to give them the personnel that they need. And did we completely do it? Probably not. We'll probably have to come back next year and do a little more. But I think that this is a very good budget for our city and will take us through the next fiscal year in good shape. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Hughley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And let me just say, I agree with all of the things that the budget chair just outlined, but I do want to point out one thing that is concerning to me in the budget that has been proposed or considered. As the city attorney said, the total budget is $366,319,362. And of that $366.3 million, $202,849,985 is general fund of that $366.3 million. $11.27 million to balance that budget, this budget, comes from the reserve fund. And of that $11.27 million that comes from the reserve fund to balance the budget, the thing that's concerning is that $9.3 million of that is day-to-day, ongoing day-to-day operations. And which means that next year, that $9.3 million of day-to-day operations, though we do anticipate some level of revenue increase, but $9.3 million in ongoing operations of the $11.27 million out of reserve fund is something that we will have to fund year after year, and it compounds. And so I think we've got to be mindful of day-to-day, ongoing day-to-day operations expenses out of the reserve fund. But wanted to make that point. So with that, the reserve funds remaining is 56.06 days in general fund, 41.21 days of OLOST, for a total of 97.81 days left in the reserve fund. And so I just wanted to make that note and point out that all that the budget chair said, I think we've done some good things in the budget. The concerning thing is that we are using $9.3 million in ongoing day-to-day operational expenses. Wanted to say that, and Mayor Pro Tem, I know that it's a public hearing and some members of the public may want to be heard, but I do think I know we have at least one department head who wants to be heard, and that's the Finance Director, Angelica Alexander, and there may be others, but certainly it's a public hearing.
One correction, Mr. City Manager, in terms of the general fund reserve days, it's 56.60. You said 06.
Okay. Yeah.
56.60 general fund reserve days, 41.21 OLOS days, for a total of 97.81 reserve days remaining in this fiscal year.
Well, I had the total correct.
Yes, you had total correct.
Thank you for the correction.
Yes. And I'm not sure, you know, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. So you'll have to provide some direction. Do I give my name and address?
Do what? Yeah, but you know, Mayor Pro Tem has raised a good question. We've got this public comment. Would you mind if we let the
I think
folks that are waiting
that would be
first?
appropriate, yes.
Do you mind,
I don't
Madam
mind.
Finance Director?
I will be here.
No, I figured you would, and I knew you'd understand. Thank you. So we'll let the folks that have come out here speak first.
Okay, anybody in the audience want to be heard on this, the first reading of the operating budget? Any questions or comments? We're gonna have some more comments then from our finance director and go around the table.
Glad you didn't go far. Thank you, ma'am.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to sort of address the council. I am always in a bit of a conundrum here every year as we go through the budget process. And as the city manager mentioned, the reserve fund usage is obviously very concerning. It's concerning to me. And like I said, I am always in a bit of a sticky situation every year because, you know, looking at the budget from a holistic perspective and looking at it from a departmental perspective, you know, it's always two sides of the same coin for me. And so I spend, you know, and I'll be very brief, I spend, you know, an unhealthy amount of time, you know, filling in the gaps for this city, whether it's the departmental gaps in the finance department, knowledge gaps, technical gaps. At the end of the day, I always do or try to do what it takes to keep everything going. And so that handout that I've provided to you all is just, you know, sort of where we are, quick snapshot of where we are right now in terms of licenses process. I will be coming back, obviously, as part of ongoing compliance efforts, with providing an update to you all before the end of this month. But some of the processes and improvements that are denoted there from the audit report are obviously in jeopardy of failing without additional staffing. From a license processing standpoint, we have processed from January 1st of 2024 through June 2nd of 2024, over 6,700 licenses. This is a market increase over where we were last year. It's even better than where we were in 2019. And that is largely due to the additional staffing that we have. So I would like to request, you know, that the council consider putting in the additional positions for the finance department, as well as the career ladder adjustments that were removed for the hardworking employees of the finance department. It was a little disheartening for those employees who have, are long-term employees, who have been here for a while, that were anticipating career ladder adjustments. All the other career ladder adjustments remained in the budget for all the other departments, with the exception of the finance department. And so I would just like for the council to reconsider putting those career ladder adjustments. It's a blip in terms of the reserve days, 0.02 days, or just over $16,500 for those employees.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Counselor Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that this presentation is out of order. This resolution, this item that's on the agenda is to approve the budget that the council, that the Budget Committee has already approved. The finance director had the opportunity during our conversations to bring this to our attention. This was not something that the Budget Committee wanted to include, and I think this is completely out of order for this conversation to be going on at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
This is for the budget that we have presented to the council.
And I respect your thoughts and your opinions. I authorized her to come speak because I don't think it's out of order. I think that when some of the positions that were removed, it was at the tail end of the budget work session. And I don't remember her having an opportunity. And I think it is critical that this entire council has an opportunity to understand what kind of impact it's going to make. We had every other department head have an opportunity to come explain how the impact was going to be.
She had the same opportunity, Mr. Mayor.
No, I don't recall it being that way. What I recall seeing is these things removed at the last bit. So she's had an opportunity to make her case and talk about some of the repercussions that she sees, just like every other department head that came up before y'all. So.
She was not denied the opportunity.
Now we're talking semantics. I don't recall an offer being made for her to come. Matter of fact, I remember a couple of people kind of turned away from the mic at one point. So anyway, thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions around the table? All right, we're gonna bring this back then, next week. It'll be second reading, and you can vote on the operating budget. Item 3 is a non-operating budget. There are various funds shown there, such as Urban Development Home Program, American Rescue Plan. They're all set out there, and if there are any questions, the finance director is here. Okay.
I don't see any questions.
We'll bring that back for a vote.
I doubt it, but if there's anybody in the audience.
Well, it's a non-operating budget normally. We don't
Okay.
get questions on that one.
Just want to make sure we offer. Counselor Tucker?
At a later date, can we bring back the American Rescue Plan budget just to get an update regarding the 29 million .4 that's still on the table, and if there are going to be possibilities of this money being reallocated to other projects? So
Yes, ma'am.
sometime at the end of the month or the beginning of July. Thank you.
We'll do it. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, I'm gonna call the next 4 items together. These are general government employee pension plan contributions for FY '25, Department of Public Safety pension plan contributions, major disability income plan contribution, and death benefit plan, escrow plan contribution. Any questions around the table on those?
No.
Okay, we'll take a vote next week. The Next item is the garbage fee adjustment increase to $21 per month on water bills. It is also updating the fees and guidelines for residential rate for low-income households pursuant to the federal standard. Any questions around the table?
No.
Okay. We'll vote on that next week. And we've got the business improvement districts being renewed through December 31, 2034. Not sure if anybody's here from
I saw Mr.
Uptown, but
Wolverton.
that's a 10-year renewal. Okay. Did y'all want to say anything, Mr. Wolverton? You have the mic, so take advantage.
No, yeah, there's no
Usually
questions.
don't unless specifically asked. I'm Ed Wolverton, 25 West 10th Street. So we are bringing forward the proposal to renew the Business Improvement District for another 10-year term. The state has two different requirements that an entity can meet to authorize the reauthorization, and we are bringing forward a petition that shows 75% of the owners of at least 75% of the property within the district support the bid's renewal. And we've had tremendous success over the last 20 years with it, and we hope to keep that going.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wolverton. Thank you for what you're doing with Uptown.
Thank you for coming. We'll vote next week at the 9 o'clock meeting on that. Then Mayor, we've got one last item here. The ordinance on new permit fees for building code inspections. The state law, this will be consistent with the new state law also. Is Mr. Pruitt here? All right. Let's see if there are any questions around the table. Mr. Pruitt, you want to comment at all?
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager. So as I presented last week, this is the ordinance that goes along with that presentation, adjusting the fees from the valuation method we currently use to a square footage method in accordance with the new state law. I would just mention that after I gave you the update, I did meet the next day with the Home Builders Association and explained the fee structure to them, and they did follow up that meeting with a letter of support or no opposition to this changes. So just wanted to share that with you and be happy to answer any questions.
Doesn't appear to be any.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. We'll vote on that next week. Mayor, that's the formal business agenda. I've been handed a request for an executive session on a personnel matter, and that's all we have listed.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the public agenda. And what we'll do is allow each one of these individuals 5 minutes. I apologize in advance for seeming rude. I'll cut you off right at 5, just to be fair across the board. If you can't get all of your comments in that 5 minutes, you're welcome to come back after the clerk's agenda, and we'll give you an additional 3 minutes. First is Ms. Julie Fryer, representing the Animal Control Advisory Board, regarding the Animal Control Advisory Board supporting the Columbus Animal Care and Control staffing model for FY25 budget. Ms. Fryer, if you would, just give your name and your city
Yes,
of residence.
Yes, sir. First, thank you all for letting me speak tonight and handling all the emails and stuff that I sent to you along the way. My name is Julie Fryer. I'm the current Animal Control Advisory Board chairperson. I've also been a volunteer at Animal Control since 2019. My students, I teach a transition class at Hardaway High School, and they also work doing job vocational skills at Animal Control. So tonight, Courtney's presentation will be more facts, logistics, that kind of stuff. Mine is more from a Animal Control Advisory Board member standpoint and just an average citizen. Currently, we are Animal Control Advisory Board. We have a subcommittee for SOPs. That has been a huge thing that we have been trying to work on for years now. And We've had 2 meetings for that. This is, even though we don't have a full Animal Control Advisory Board right now, this has been the most collaboration among our board members and with animal control that I've experienced. 2 of our meetings so far, we're moving along. But the last meeting, one of the things that we were looking at is some of these SOPs, and I know a lot of it's the emails we get, you know, something as simple as, you know, what happens when a dog comes in the door? What are the intake procedures? These are things we would like to address in the SOPs. But as we look at those, we also understand that the staffing model, what animal control currently has versus what NACA has laid out, we can come up with, you know, great SOPs, but the truth is implementing them with the current staffing model is going to be an issue. I mean, they might look great on paper, but that's not really what I signed up for. You know, when I signed up to do this, it was really to try to help with the animals, the community, that sort of thing. And we do want good SOPs. We want to create solid ones that we know can be implemented. I guess too, a more of a heartfelt plea right here also is, I know a lot of the staff members at Animal Control personally. They've worked with my students over the years. They've been great role models. And to see these people struggle daily in the care of these animals, it's a lot, you know? I mean, physically struggle through just the day-to-day care of them, to see them struggle emotionally, mentally. And the only thing I have to compare it to is education, because I've been a teacher for 20 years. So whenever I look at a school, you know, you have the partners in education. That kind of is equivalent to rescues. You have your parent-teacher organization, which in my opinion is kind of like your volunteers or your citizens that come in and try to help. And when I look at animal control in that comparison, we wouldn't expect a school to run just based off partners in education, PTA, and half staff. I mean, if that was the case, we know the students wouldn't get what they need. We know there would be struggles. And that is my analogy when I think of where we're at currently with animal control. I mean, we have a great volunteer base. We have citizens that are trying to be involved more now. But the truth of it is we're working off a really old staffing model. That's something I know that's been a question since I came in, in 2019. That's something we've discussed. But it is really hard to see overall what's being done. And two, just kind of the barrier it's causing us to try to create these new SOPs moving forward. I mean, we haven't had anything really in writing in as long as I can remember. And that's something that, I mean, I've pushed for. This is my second term. And from the first meeting I ever sat in here, I've pushed for these SOPs. Animal control's willing to work, willing to come up with them. But what good is it if it's just on paper? So that's what I'm here to just say. I really hope that you guys could look at that and see if we can't give some more support towards CACC in that matter. I think it'll make more sense too whenever Courtney shows you everything laid out.
Julie, thank you. Counselor Tucker?
Hey.
Sorry.
Say one of my favorite advocates. I did have a question in reference, because I know we've spoken about SOPs and you know
Yes, ma'am.
me in my military.
Yes, ma'am.
Like I live and die by SOPs. Is it, and I don't know what's like actually physically on the books or if there are SOPs, you know, currently with the CAC, but is it possible for us to just start where we are? Did you, and number one,
Yes, ma'am.
possibly just start with what we have and develop a framework, SOPs around that, even though it's an old model? Because we know that we're challenged, but we know that we are working on changes, I'm gonna say incrementally, not
Yes,
doing it
ma'am.
all at once, because it will be less than 90 days if we did in the fund balance. But is it possible to use what's actually on the books, create the SOPs, and then expand into what we actually desire, start working on that separately.
Yes,
Is it
ma'am.
possible to do that?
So what we ended up doing is we tried to stay very focused on, with the Animal Control Advisory Board, our whole mission is just operations. It's not to get into, personnel, any of those type of issues. So with Ms. Johnson, anything field operation SOPs are just that's kind of, not saying off limits, but that's not something that we've really been discussing. What we did in that first meeting was we pulled out the closest thing that we could ever find to SOPs, which was the old Save a Pet. And then we pulled SOPs from different animal controls across Georgia. Everybody brought in some samples and stuff. And we started going through the table of contents and like striking out, we don't need that. We still need this area updated. So, I mean, we will have updated stuff, but I think some of the biggest questions that we end up getting asked, whether it be in emails or whatnot, are the, stuff like the vaccine schedules or what happens when of intake of a dog, or the pictures posted on the website or these, and those things are absolutely important. But with the staff right now, we know that's here, to be able to do that. I mean, it's just not, it's not physically possible to get all of that done with the staffing model that's in place right now. So it's not even that really we're looking for the gold standard of SOPs right now. We're really just trying to do some basic stuff.
All right, and I see the director is in the back, and I guess at a later date, I would like to ask if it's possible for the director to work with, and also Director Drell Short in the back, where we can come together. In the Air Force, we call it Tiger Teams. So you have a challenge, and I'm actually going to DC on Sunday, and you come up with this challenge, and then you go through, steps on how to provide solutions. But you bring the key stakeholders in the room because they are the ones that know the issues along with yourself. But you work together on developing these SOPs and actually coming up with a roadmap on how to make this better, provide the solutions. But we gotta work together. We have to. So if it's possible for us to schedule something in the near future where we work with these individuals that are members of the board, along with both directors, to just try to create a roadmap to come up with some solutions, if that's okay. I see Director Short shaking her head, and also Director Johnson shaking her
And
head.
our
yes,
subcommittee
in the front.
meetings have been really good. Ms. Johnson.
I know, I've been seeing.
Okay, good.
So, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you all sharing it on YouTube and letting the community know. It shows transparency, and it helps all of us. But I really hope that we can set up this meeting in the near future and then come up with a roadmap on how to, address some of those concerns as far as a SOP. So I think it's gonna happen. I know,
Yes,
matter of fact, I know it's gonna happen.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Fryer.
Thank you.
All right, next is Ms. Elamine, and she had actually emailed, said she might not be here for this piece, but if she comes back at the end of the meeting, we'll give her 3 minutes since she did sign up. So next is Ms. Courtney Pierce, representing Paws Humane Society, reconsideration of appropriate staffing levels at animal care and control. Hey, Courtney.
Handouts, is it fine if I?
Yeah. Clerk can give them, Madam Clerk, can you assist with that?
My name is Courtney Pierce. I'm the current executive director at Paws Humane Society. And I just want to thank you for your time and attention on this matter today. Before I go into my presentation, I just want to give kind of a short background of my experience in animal services. I've worked in this arena for about 21 years in various roles, from kennel cleaner. I was an animal control officer with the city. I've worked with Best Friends Animal Society and of course at Paws, and I've spent most of my years in management. What I'm asking of council today is to approve a budget that allows an appropriate level of staffing at Animal Care and Control. Operationally, our two organizations have different functions for our community, but at its core, we're both responsible for the care of animals admitted to our shelters. The only way we could do that appropriately is to have our basic needs met, which is staffing that meets the requirements for capacity for care. My 5 minutes with you today is not enough time to go into all the data and calculations that go into running a successful organization, such as length of stay and number of days for stray hold, and knowledge and skill of staff all factor into these equations. So what I'm going to focus on is basic needs, which is the number of staff needed to begin to operate at a functional level. I mentioned capacity for care, and what that simply means is meeting the needs of all animals in the shelter. Achieving this involves implementing programs and allowing for shelter to function at a level where every animal has the 5 freedoms, which is in your handout. And staff is provided an environment where they can do a good job. And I'm going to repeat that last section of it because I feel like it's really important. It allows staff an environment where they can do a good job. You all have had multiple complaints and criticisms at the level of care of animals in Animal Care and Control, as well as complaints regarding leadership directly. I myself have been critical, but I do strongly believe that these issues are due to operating well below your capacity for care. Luckily, other people have done the calculations for us. It's industry standard. It's nothing that we have, it's nothing I created. It's industry standard. So your staffing needs is your capacity times 15 minutes equals a number of people. At your current level, you would need 2.5 people to simply feed and clean. That's it, no other. If you dive a little deeper and recalculate and account for a very generous assumption that only 10% of your population needs additional care, then you're looking at 3 staff members. That's it, no other care, no vaccines, no meeting potential adopters, no updating pictures, no time outside the kennel, and that certainly doesn't allot time for these employees for any other responsibilities that may be in their job descriptions. People often draw comparisons between our organizations, and while PAWS is certainly not without criticism and negative reviews, mostly we're complimented for doing a good job. If you strip away all of Animal Control's functions and PAWS functions and just compare apples to apples with just animal care and customer service, we're very similar. Both staff expectations, we operate a 7-day-a-week operation. We are responsible for the care of 100+ animals, the intake of animals, which is vaccines, pictures, input of records into shelter software, daily medications, adopters, working with customers, answering phones, voicemails, emails, coordinating with rescues, scanning for microchips, owner surrender appointments, and offsite adoptions. If you compare the two at a capacity level, we're also very similar. Animal Control holds about 102. At max capacity, we hold about 130. And this is where really it becomes obvious to me what the true issue is, and that's the level of staffing. Right now at Animal Control, you have 2 staff members to care for 102 animals and responsible for everything that I just mentioned, everything that I listed, plus whatever else is in their job description that I'm not privy to. At PAWS Humane Society, as an example, we have 13 to do the same job, and that's why we're able to do it. We have no government funding. We operate solely on the generosity of our community in order to keep our standard of care. And I commend you all for your forward thinking and the approval of a staff veterinarian position, and I think that's important. But I do think that's going to be the hardest position to fill. It took PAWS well over a year to find our 2nd veterinarian. There's currently a shortage, and they are in very high demand. Before Kanita was hired on, her position was open to DVMs only, and that was obviously never filled. Memory serves me correct, I think that was open for about 4 years. Your current staffing model does not give that veterinarian, should they be hired, any support staff.
Courtney, I hate to do this.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I got to ask you to come back and finish if you want to at the end of the clerk's agenda.
I just had about 4 more sentences, so I think we're okay, but I appreciate your time.
Well, listen, thank you. Okay, hold on just a second. City Manager?
I just wanted clarification.
Sure.
You said that you have 13 people to do what we have 2 doing?
Correct. That's correct.
That
Our
blows,
standard of care is probably a little bit different. I mean, there's a lot, we spend a lot of time in enrichment. There's a lot of things that we do, play groups and things like that, that obviously Animal Control doesn't do. But for the direct care of animals, yes, we have 13 staff members.
For
A
direct-
few of those are vacant currently, but we have.
you have 13 direct care, did you say?
Yes,
and
it's
we have-
all in it for adoptions, for intake. I have one dedicated person for intake, so all vaccines get done on intake. We have several that.
So what made you come here today?
I'm in support of, I think Animal Control needs more shelter staff.
Okay.
And I don't know that that's budgeted appropriately. And I do know that they've asked for that, and
Yeah.
I think they deserve that. And the animals in the facility deserve that, as well as the people that are currently working.
So you would think that that's why they are challenged so much by members of the public?
I think that's a large part of it, yes. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, when you're asked, I know a lot of the criticisms, and I've done it too. Why isn't the website updated? Why didn't this animal get a vaccine? I mean, when you're talking about 2 people for a 7-day-a-week operation, that often leaves one person there. It's an impossibility for them to get everything done, and things fall through the cracks.
Thanks for coming to share that with us.
Thank you.
Courtney, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. That will, that'll complete the public agenda. We'll move now to the city manager's agenda.
Mayor, I just got a couple of items. First, I've got a Golden Park Cell Tower 5-year lease extension. Asking for approval. This would be,
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. Can you cue it? It's up there. Y'all can register your votes. Too quick. All right, it's approved.
and that's 9,000. The lease renewal amount will increase to $9,125 per year. I've got 2 updates, Mayor. I'm going to take them out of order and call MCP first because theirs is, hopefully will be quick. It's, they're going to exceed their budget. And as you know, we require department heads come and speak to you when they're going to exceed their budget. So I'm going to ask that the finance director present why we're here today.
Yes. Hello again. So as the city manager mentioned, Muskogee County Prison is here in reference to ordinance 13-39 that says if a department or elected official is anticipated to exceed their budgeted appropriations, they must come before this council and request additional funding. There were some increases relative to the food contract for the prison. The vendor did request it was over 10% increase for the cost of food for the inmates at the prison. Also, there are some overages relative to the outside inmate medical care for inmates at the facility, as well as some operational equipment, some vests, some staff vests that are so desperately needed for the officers at the Muskogee County Prison. And so with about $80,000 needed for the vests and about $120,000 to cover the cost of food and outside inmate medical care, we anticipate the prison to need about $200,000 in additional operating appropriations to end this fiscal year.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All right, all in,
June? Yes, ma'am.
all right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you,
Yes.
Finance Director. And Mayor, the next item I've got on the agenda, I attempted to have a discussion at the budget review meeting. I was going to ask that some monies be included in the fiscal year 25 budget to address some of the issues. A roof issue is what I had brought, and CGL, maintenance firm on state contract wanted to ask for some funding for them. The sheriff was not present, and so it was actually delayed and asked to be brought at a regular meeting. We did have a meeting. Councilor Davis requested be a part of that meeting, and we did meet and have a discussion about the jail and the challenges we have there. Tonight, I've asked the director to come, and I've asked the architect that we have worked with, SLAM, representatives to be here, and I have asked for Gilbane, construction company, management company to be here. So they're all here, and I want them to present, and the sheriff is here. We asked him to be here. We want them to present what would be considered short-term solutions to the safe, health, life, safety concerns that we have at the jail. And they are going to present that tonight. And this, if council decide they want to either include it in the fiscal year 25 budget, I know we had first reading earlier, or we could take funds directly from what's left in reserve funds to address the life, safety, health concerns at the jail. Now, what they're going to present to you is going to be a big number. And what I attempted to bring at the budget meeting a couple of weeks ago was a phased-in approach to, I wanted to address the roof first because, and I did see Mr. Barner come in, he talked about the roof leaks, and if we don't repair the roof, water is going to continue to get into the building. And the other thing we needed to address would be pipes. And so I wanted CGL, this maintenance company that is used at other jails in their own state contract. I think one jail is Forsyth, I believe. And I think the sheriff and some of SLAM and maybe even some other folk went up to, with the sheriff, up to Forsyth, and they saw the work of the CGL company. But they're going to present. It's going to be a big number, and I don't believe it's something that we can address in terms of short-term solutions all at once. I think we can only afford it in phases if we're going to do it. But I think we've got to do something because we need to make sure our employees are safe and those who are incarcerated are safe. And we need to do it as quickly as possible. And so I'm going to ask Darrell Short, the director, to talk to us, and then you may want to bring up the others as necessary.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come back before you to talk about the jail. The jail is something that I'm very concerned with, and the jail is a long-term project for sure. But we did, in fact, have several of our contractors to go through and do an assessment on the jail, and that's what I'm going to present to you tonight. So in our table of contents, I'm going to talk about CGL, which is a company that the city manager just mentioned, which is a state authorized contractor for the purpose of building maintenance or facility maintenance. And then, of course, one of our jail team members that are working with us right now currently to try to determine the best course of action to take with the jail, Gilbane. I will go over what they have recommended as their assessment has brought forward in the jail. And all of these recommendations, I will tie up and give you the number for that, but just understand and know that it is something that we feel very strongly that we need to take some action on to ensure the lifespan of the jail, first and foremost. As they continue to work, the team continues to work on coming up with a solution to determine what we're going to do with our jail. So with that, CGL is, as the city manager mentioned, the Georgia statewide contractor holder for facility maintenance services in the state of Georgia. They have more than 30 years of experience in facility maintenance, and that maintenance mainly is in jails, in judicial centers, as well as any other commercial buildings. They do preventative maintenance and maintenance programs. They're currently managing, in the maintenance arena, over 25 million square feet of facilities is being handled by this company. So they know, I feel like they know what they're doing. They have over 400 plus staff members working in Georgia as well as across the United States. So when we met CGL, we really didn't know what to expect from them, but some of the benefits that we could obtain from partnering with them would be to provide preventive maintenance and repairs for all of our building systems and equipment, to provide energy management. They're also able to offer computerized maintenance management and reporting, as well as on-site staff, which is something that you all know we've been struggling to hire for a while now, route services as well as emergency services. Again, by partnering with CGL, we will be able to improve the performance of our buildings, which is something that we desperately need to do. Some of the systems that CGL will work on or do preventive maintenance on, outside of the HVAC systems, that includes the chillers and boilers. They do kitchen appliances. They also do the fire life safety equipment, elevators and kitchen hoods. That's not just preventive maintenance, but to ensure that our annual certifications are in line. They will also do preventive maintenance on our generators and do load testing, water treatment for our chillers and boilers, associated piping, as well as pest control. As far as our cooling towers are concerned in the jail, they will do quarterly and annual preventative maintenance. Laundry equipment, they can do preventative maintenance on that as well, as handle all centrifugal and circulating pumps, preventive maintenance on those, plumbing fixtures and associated piping, sewage grinder, transfer switches, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot that CGL can do, and we had them to come down in March, and at that time in March, they not only walked through the jail, but they also walked through Recorder's Court, which is attached to the jail, as well as MCP. And that was just to give them an idea of what it is that we have here and what we're looking at. And they were able to provide us an estimated cost to handle the preventative maintenance and the maintenance for these 3 locations at an annual estimated cost of $1.5 million. Now, this cost does not include the equipment and material costs. It is strictly for the labor, and it only pays for the labor through your standard work week of Monday through Friday. Anything outside of that time period is billed at time and a half and billed separately for that emergency service because it is not during the normal workday. CGL is offering to place 7 people in the facilities to ensure that they are being properly maintained. The second half of this is repairs that need to be done to this facility. We can do all the maintenance we want to do, but if we don't fix the problem, the repairs, it's not going to slow down the deterioration of this facility. So with that, we asked Gilbane, one of our other team members in the jail, to walk through and do an assessment on what is currently needed to ensure life safety and security measures within the guidelines that the Department of Justice would not come down here and fine us for not taking care of. So Gilbane was willing to do that. As you know, again, they're one of our current partners working with the Muskogee County Jail Project team to identify the best course of action for this facility. Gilbane has significant insight on our facility. They've been working in it. They walked through it. They've toured it on so many different occasions, and they have come up with some really good recommendations for repairs. In the back of your presentation, you each received a copy. You'll also see Gilbane's report, and it's broken down into 4 categories. Those categories being facility repair and maintenance, operations, security, and building systems. Under category 1, you'll find building maintenance, which encompasses the building facade, roofing and perimeter copings, acoustical tile ceilings, security glazing, replacement and repainting of the facility. Under category 2, you'll find operations listed, at which supplemental space is recommended, supplemental staff, as well as move and fully remote visitation for the jail. Category 3 is security. That's to enhance the current video surveillance system, the DAS communication system, as well as the supplemental camera system to be installed. Category 4 under this report is talking about building systems. With that, they offered or recommending a separate contract for the pipe situation in the jail. They gave us a quote of anywhere from the low end being $126 per hour for these repairs up to $190 per hour. That also helps you have an idea of what plumbers are making right now. They're very expensive employees, if you will. Installation and replacement of isolation valves, replacement of lightning protection and surge protection for this building. If you continue to look in your handout, you'll see that there is a chart of the Gilbane recommendations, and it gives you each category, each item, the low cost in comparison to the high cost. And if you look at the very bottom in red, it shows that the low was 22+ million and the high was 37+ million. This includes all recommendations for life-saving measures as well as the security measures that they are recommending need to be done for the jail. So, in asking you to consider funding what our needs are, I wanted to give a breakdown on what the cost factor would be for the first year. So year one, you see the $37 million that would do all of the repairs that Gilbane is recommending, plus having a contingency of $500,000 for the pipe leaking situation that's going on in the jail. That's to ensure that we can pay that $120 to $190, depending on the actual cost when it comes in, as well as anything else dealing with piping that they would have to handle for us. So the total estimated cost for year one was $37,819,490. That's for year one. But in year two, that number would drop dramatically to just the preventive maintenance costs for CGL, which would be the $1.5 million. And that would go on for the third year until we have come to a conclusion on what actions we're going to take as it relates to the jail. And again, that $500,000 contingency includes that pipe repair process that we're going to be looking for and that we're asking for them to also look into to make sure that the pipe leaking situations in the jail are handled. So preventative and standard maintenance are crucial for the health of any building. I think you all will agree with me on that. I'm recommending, facility maintenance is recommending that we recommend funding be approved to hire CGL as a preventive maintenance source for our buildings, as well as funding the contracted recommendations that our contractor, Gilbane, has also provided for us. So an estimated cost again for the first year is $37 million. And as the city manager mentioned, we have representation here from all of our team. That would be my facility maintenance team, as well as SLAM, Barnes Gibson, Jericho Design, and Gilbane. So they are also here to answer any questions that you all may have.
So obviously, Mayor Pro Tem, you know, we don't have 22 million sitting somewhere in a bank that we can use for this. We don't have, certainly don't have 37 million. And, but SLAM and Gilbane are both here, and so, you know, you see this list and I don't know that the entire roof needs to be replaced, but I was bringing forward a couple of weeks ago 2.5 million for roof replacement and the 1.5 for the CGL maintenance, which would have been 4.9 million. And so I think we need to start somewhere and with a budget. We can, if we've got a budget to start what I would refer to as a phase one, we could determine whether a portion of the roof needs to be replaced or all of the roof. And if it's all of it, it's 2.5 million. If it's a portion of the roof, it's going to be something less than that. But I think we need to go ahead and consider bringing in CGL. I think maintenance is crucial, and when they're here, if we get them, they can help point out some of the other things that we need to repair. Because the bigger concern for me in spending the money, Mayor Pro Tem, is that we know that we need to replace the jail. And, and whatever we put into this building, there may not be a return on the investment. It may be money, much like what we did with the government center. We knew we were gonna tear down the government center, but we spent $6 or $8 million for life, health, safety things to make sure our employees are safe in the government center and citizens doing business at the government center are safe. And so we spent $6 to $8 million that we'll never get back because obviously we're gonna demo the government center. But we had to do it for the sake of our employees and citizens using that building over the next, those years that we knew it would take to get the new judicial center up and running. Well, we're gonna have to invest money in the jail for a building that, much like the government center, in all likelihood is going to be demoed. And so we're not gonna get that money back. But we gotta do it for the life, safety, health of employees and those incarcerated. So we've got the people here who can answer questions, but you know, we cannot take on this entire 22 million to 37 million, but certainly we need a budget to make sure we take care of the roof, to keep the water out of the building. We need the team in there to do those things and identify other repairs that need to be made to make sure that we keep people safe. And so we'll answer questions at this time. But I am asking that we consider something either in the current budget that's on the table or as an item and that the council consider allocating monies from the reserve fund outside of the budget right now to take care of the more urgent things that will make that building usable for the next 5 years or 8 years, however long it's going to take to get a replacement building. So we'll answer questions.
Okay, thank you. We have several in queue. I wanted to ask regarding the roof, has it been evaluated yet?
We haven't had it evaluated by our contractor. We are just waiting on the final pricing to come back.
Waiting on,
Final pricing.
okay. All right, first up is Counselor Tucker.
Yeah, one of the things I asked, I think earlier this year, was how much we had spent with Benjamin Franklin to actually help make these decisions. And I still haven't.
We spent over 650,000.
So 650.
It's probably more than that now, but the last figure I was given was 650.
Okay. Is the hourly rate what you had presented for Benjamin Franklin? Or is that just for doing the pipes?
This is what Gilbane
Hourly rate.
contractor hourly rate.
Do
would
we
be.
have the hourly
I can get
rate
that for you.
Okay.
For Benjamin Franklin?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So, if we actually do this maintenance and preventive maintenance, I guess contract, would this replace having to use Benjamin Franklin?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, let me correct that. Let me
Because I
stop.
already
Let me
know, you
correct
just
that.
said Saturday and Sunday that they don't
The
work.
majority of it is for the jail, correct? But there
Mhm.
are still other areas throughout the government that we have to repair. I still only have that one plumber. So there may be occasions when we will have to call on Benjamin Franklin to assist us because of staffing shortages.
All right. So the 650, is that just at the jail?
That's at the jail.
At the jail?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's actually more when we look at Parks and Rec and other
Absolutely.
locations. I'm just looking at the heads
At Johnny.
shaking.
Yeah.
If you can you provide
Yeah.
that information? And I know we had a conversation in reference to the plumbers' salaries, because one of the things that we've been hearing in the community is we can't get plumbers to come based on the amount that we pay as far as the salary.
That's correct.
and I can't remember what the salary rate starting, well, the salary rate that we actually, approved during this budget cycle. I can't remember if it was like 60 something
Yeah,
or,
it's
and I left my
like
book in the
21
vehicle.
An hour?
Rushing.
I'm not sure. I don't know if Rita's
Yeah.
still here, but I want to say.
Well, you mean the hourly rate for our, that we pay internally?
Yeah.
It's somewhere around 21, 22, but typically they will make a request to pay at a higher level, and we'll bring them in somewhere around $25, $26 an
So
hour.
about $26 an hour. Okay.
And then they still don't stay because after they're here for a short period, someone will offer them 32,
Right.
and then they leave.
So also with that $26 dollars an hour, we actually have really good benefits with CCG. I will say that.
Yeah, but, and you know, only challenge with that is that a lot of people, they don't have the same concerns that we had years ago.
Long time ago. What benefits?
Yeah,
matter.
you know, I've had people will leave where we've got excellent benefits, will leave Metra to go and get a job, let's say driving a truck where there are no benefits, or a mechanic will leave Metra where there are benefits and go and do mechanic work for someone who don't have benefit. And I asked the question, how much more an hour? $1. So I mean, you know, benefits are great here at the city, but some people are not focused on that. They want the paycheck.
The money. Okay. Well, those were, the two, and I would say, I know the sheriff was in the back, sheriff. But, if he could give his opinions on this, report, I would love to hear from him.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager,
Welcome,
City Attorney. What you just heard is what I see every day. And my concern, day in and day out, is for the safety of my staff, those that I'm entrusted to house within the jail. This is a maintenance report. It's much needed. As sheriff, I'm very concerned about the population of the jail. This is the maintenance plan, which is a short-term fix, but ultimately, personally, I would love to see a new jail. We're the second largest city in the state of Georgia, and our jail is not only in desperate need for repair, but we need to have a new jail facility. Jail population today, I looked at it while the director was just giving the report. We're designed to hold 1,069. The jail count today was 1,069. We've been almost at 1,100 in recent days. The police chief and I, we talk all the time about projects that we're working on to help reduce crime. The numbers are only going to go up. And so over the years, the longer we wait, we still have to have someone to house the bad guys when we arrest them. So what Director Short gave is what's needed. We definitely need someone in the jail daily to work on maintenance issues. Plumbing is a huge issue in the jail, HVAC systems. It seems like that plumbing is our largest issue. We've had mold issues from that, and I appreciate the council, city manager coming down initially early on and looking at these issues and sort of getting the ball rolling about 3 years ago. But we need desperately not only a new jail, but we definitely need full-time maintenance people in the building, not just in the jail, but in many facilities that we have.
Counselor Thomas?
I have a couple of questions. One is, what is the security plan during these renovations, both for inmates and employees? And what is the cost of implementing that security plan?
Council Thomas, that would be based on what we know that we can plan for. As it is now, it's sort of up in the air. We really don't know what direction that we're going in, but we do know that it will be a cost because we have to have additional personnel to come in if we have to move individuals. If you move individuals from one section of the jail and make room or try to make room in other areas, you're going to have additional personnel because of gang issues, keep separate issues, medical issues. There are so many factors that we have to factor into because when you put a large volume of individuals into one area to where you may have to house them different, that's going to create a lot of ruckus. And one of the larger issues is that if we have to move individuals from our jail facility for safety reasons to another jail facility. For instance, Fulton County did it. They moved 200 inmates from Fulton County Jail into another jail facility at a price tag of $5 million per year. And so the longer we wait for this, it's going to create, I'm looking at the dollars as someone that believes in being fiscally sound with money. This is making my head spin because.
Me too.
Yeah, because I worry about the impact, the financial impact of how do we get through this the best way, the smartest way, and the safest way. So there's a lot of things that we have to consider, but there will be an additional cost for personnel because we have to ensure that those that we house in the jail, that they're going to be safe. And that's going to be a 24-hour deal on top of dealing with mental health issues, on top of dealing with transporting inmates to and from court, to and from the hospital, medical appointments. It's going to create a lot of things that we need to be able to plan for. So the earlier we know the direction that we're going in, it helps us to create some type of operation plan and how we deal with it so that we can be successful and make sure that everyone within the facility will be safe.
And Sheriff, if this includes additional staff to take care of some of these security issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Are they available?
Well, this is why I came to the council during the budget session to talk about having the extra income or the extra revenue or the extra money within the budget for the stipend plan, because we have to have some type of a draw to get individuals to come in to work in the reserve program that we have. We're competing, not only within the sheriff's office, but within the police department, to where we have reserve that makes much lower than they could go out and work a part-time job making. And so competing to get them to come in to work to help us, we have a mandatory 8 hours that each reserve deputy must work. But beyond that, it's really, really hard to draw reserve deputies in based on what we pay them. So if we had to pay a full-time staff member, we're paying more in salaries and more in overtime. So trying to juggle how do we do this and stay within our current budget.
One of the things that have been brought up here tonight is a new jail.
Yes,
and if I recall correctly, in the last several SPLOST issues, there was provisions for a new jail, were there not? To build a new jail?
Well, there was money back in, I guess it was in one of the sales tax to add 600 beds.
I'm sorry, to add?
600 beds. That was a OLOS, I believe. We were going to add 600 beds, and you were going to get, you weren't there at that time, but 12 new deputies and so many additional correctional officers. And then that's when they came up with this, whatever program, the judge, yeah, rapid resolution. I'm trying to get my memory right. And they were able to reduce the number of, we had 1,300 people in jail during that time. And they were able to reduce the number of people in jail, got it down to 900, a little over 900. And so that never moved forward, the 600 beds, but there was an assessment that was done, and I'm going on my memory from back then, there was an assessment that regarding the 600 beds. I'd have to go back and look at all of that because I'm trying to operate on memory. And I think, I'm trying to remember how many correctional officers. I think it was like 50.
It was a total of 71.
56 correctional officers, I believe,
and
and
then
12
deputies.
deputies, something like that. But I'm going on memory.
And so you're saying that there was not an issue on one of the SPLOST selections about building a new jail, a
That was
completely new jail?
That was part of the other local option. Was it other local
No.
option sales tax? Yeah, it was part of the other local option sales tax. Yeah, to add to the existing jail, 600 new beds.
But not to build a new one?
That's right, not to build a new jail.
One of the other questions that I have under the Gilbane Repair Report, Category 2, it says visitation, move to fully remote virtual visitation. What does that mean?
That means that their loved ones can look at them virtually versus coming down to the jail and physically visiting them. That there is technology that some vendors use to where they can look at the loved one and look at them from their cell phone, computer, or tablet. It only shows the face, but it blurs out any other body part. That is one option that we could do for safety reasons, that if we can't allow for a loved one to come down, that's one of the options that we can provide.
And would that be only during the construction and renovation, or would it be ongoing?
Well,
I mean, are we moving completely to virtual and remote?
We are trying to move to that. The less people we have coming into the jail, the better off we are. With COVID, we closed down everything, and we did not have the virtual piece there. But that's something that we're trying to move towards now. That we're already talking to vendors about that now. There will be an associated cost to that for the families, but that's something that we're looking at right now.
So Sheriff, if we did that now and built a new jail, could that system be moved to the new jail?
Yes,
Or,
absolutely.
yeah, it's portable, okay.
Absolutely. And some courts are using it for some judges, but most judges, probably 90% of the judges want you before them, but that's another option that we can use.
Okay. I think that's it for right now.
Okay, thank you.
And so, Mr. Mayor,
Got a few other counselors.
yeah, I was just going to say to the sheriff, when Mr. Bonner, I heard him say when he was here dealing with the mold, his people worked around the schedule of the people in the jail. And so some days perhaps they were not able to work, or they had to take long lunch breaks to work around the schedule of those in the jail.
Well, we will make sure that whoever comes to the jail, that they will be able to work with whoever we have there. When I heard that, we addressed that then, but a lot of times within the jail that we have to give medicine at a certain time.
Yeah.
We have to feed feed at a certain time. So if you hear that break, that's what that break is. But within that break, that they may go eat lunch for 30 minutes if they can. But a lot of that has to do with, we have to give out meds at a certain time.
Counselor Bagley?
Two questions, just to make sure I understand the options. If we make these improvements, does it reduce the urgency of a new jail, or is it same urgent? Okay,
No, the urgency is there.
okay. I know the city manager said it would probably get demolished. Are there any other options to try to reuse it as we build a new jail so that it's not?
Personally, based on what I see and my staff has working, I wouldn't want anyone else to work in that environment.
Well, I'm saying even after the
Well, I don't know what you could use it for. That would be a maintenance assessment, but personally, I don't see a need for anything to be there.
Okay.
Counselor Tucker?
Counselor Thomas brought up a good question, because I've been told OLOS and don't know the details in reference to the OLOS, far as the 600 beds. I think you said 12 deputies and 70+ correctional officers. So is that money still available for this? And I'm not saying this actual project, but because we know the dire strait that we are in with the jail, we do need a new jail, and we need it now. I mean, we really do. And I would feel kind of irresponsible in a sense, putting $30-something million, minus this 1.5 and some of the other things that we need to do for maintenance, but putting that amount of money in a building and knowing that we're gonna tear it down, as the District 4 representative, I just feel like that's a bit irresponsible with taxpayers' dollars. So I definitely would not support that, and I'm just being upfront, but I do support a new jail, and I do agree with the sheriff that we need to move now. We don't need to move July or August. Like, we need to get the ball running now. So get with SLAM and actually work on getting a new jail instead of doing the patchwork. I think that's the juncture that we're in right now, if we care about our employees and the justice-involved individuals that's in the jail. So, but my question was, in reference to the 600 beds, the 12 deputies, and the 70+ correctional officers that was in the OLOS, is that still in the OLOS?
Well, it was, I believe it was 56. I'm going on memory, not 70. 78 total. Yeah.
Oh, 78 total.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think over the years, and of course, we'll have to go back and look, but the sheriff at that time, and it may have been before this sheriff's time, but they were able to, they used some of the funding for those positions. They hired some additional positions in the jail, I believe. I'm just going on memory. And
Under the previous?
yeah, not with you.
Okay.
Yeah, under the previous sheriff. And the finance director may have a better memory than I do, but I believe they used, they wanted to use some of those authorized positions to hire some people, and we can come back and
bring those
yeah,
numbers. Okay.
and I agree with you, and the reason I said we need some kind of budget in phases that we can start, and then we can determine what else is critical that we need to do. We can't put, you know, I'm not in favor of putting 22 million that we're going to throw, not let alone 37 million. But I think we need to start what I attempted to bring last at the budget review was 4.9 to address, and so I do think that in what I would refer to as a phase one, if we had $6 to $8 million to start with, and the 1.5 for CGL, and get the personnel, professionals that we need, and they've got, as you heard the director say, they've got 400 employees in Georgia who are doing work at various jails and facilities, and they specialize in jails. If we've got someone here and they need to lean on the expertise of someone somewhere else in Georgia, out of 400 employees, they could call someone in to say, we need you to take a look at this. And so I think we need a CGL, because when their plumbers leave, they could probably transfer someone in until they hire someone to backfill it. Well, we just don't have that luxury. And so if we could bring on CGL, if we could look at whether the entire roof or part of the roof needs to be replaced, we would have funding for that, and then some funding for other critical things guided by the Gilbanes or the SLAM. But I think certainly you need an initial budget to work with of 6 to 8 million, that we can demonstrate that we are moving in the right direction for life, safety, health-related systems or within the jail. And so that would be what, and that would be, we consider it first phase because we may not be done. And then if we need to come back for a second phase, as we, at the same time, decide on what we're going to do in terms of replacing the jail through an entire new facility, or a combination of a renovated and an addition to the existing facility. We need 6 to 8, 6
Oh, 6 to 8.
to 8 million.
Yeah. SIX.
And no, I wouldn't spend 37 million. I wouldn't spend 22 million out the gate. But I think we need something to work with to address life safety, health issues.
Could we possibly do the 1.5 million as phase one now? Because if we're spending 650K plus, we are already spending part of that. But I do have a question, and I love this proposal with CGL, but how is it, and just like help me for my understanding, does this not go in a bid process, or are we just
No,
allowed to?
CGL is on state contract.
They're on a state contract.
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
And
Okay.
so they've been vetted.
Because I know some citizens are gonna ask
Yeah.
the question, how
No,
are we
yeah.
presenting this without going through a bid,
Yeah,
process?
they're on state contract, so we could do it very quickly. And to your point about 1.5, we have got to address the roof, and we've got to address some other systems that they will point out to us, and 1.5 is not enough. We need money for the roof. We need money for CGL, and there are going to be some unforeseen things that happen. We need a budget.
I had one more question.
Sure.
Was the 1.5, I know you said it's not including costs for equipment and material. Was that the 209,000?
That's part of the pipe leaking measures. That's for repairing the water issues within the jail.
How would we show, if we approve the 1.5, how would we go about doing the equipment and material costs? Would that come out of Public Works, or would that come out of? I'm just saying, I'm asking.
No, and I'm
Or
telling
would it
you,
come out the sheriff's
I'm telling you,
budget?
we need a budget for that. We do not have a budget for that.
Okay, so we need more than 1.5.
That's why I say 6 to 8 million dollars as an initial budget, in what I would consider a phase one.
Can we do phase one without like a complete roof?
Well, that's
I'm
what
just, because I know the first.
We're going to assess, and the roof will be somewhere between 0 and 2.5 million. And then anything that's left in an allocated budget would be used in a prudent way to address life, safe, healthy concerns at that jail.
Okay, what would be the budget for, the maintenance and the preventative maintenance? What would you give an estimate for that?
From CGL?
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
one-
mean, with the equipment and material costs.
What,
Well, it's
it would be
really
a
hard.
guess.
Yeah, that'd be a really bad
Yeah.
guess. And understand that equipment we're talking about, for example, let's just say the cooling tower went out or a chiller went out. We can't expect them to repair it under the 1.5 preventative maintenance or maintenance agreement. It would be on us to buy a new cooling tower to put in place for them to hook up and get ready, bring air conditioning back into the facility.
Would that come as emergency purchases?
That would come
or-
as an emergency purchase, absolutely.
So really, we can just approve the $1.5 million and we'll have
Well,
the maintenance.
That's just preventative maintenance, yes.
Well, the preventative,
But that doesn't include the roof or
okay,
any other life-saving measures.
so we could do the 1.5 and have the preventative maintenance.
Preventative maintenance only.
Thank you.
And have what now?
Preventative maintenance. That's CGL alone.
Yeah, they would do the preventative maintenance.
That's right, but it will not
But-
take care of the roof. or
But
any
we,
other life-saving
but
measures.
we would be doing emergency purchases and all kind of everything.
Correct.
And we'll be guided by your direction. That's what we'll do.
Counselor Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, it's obvious we should have built the jail yesterday, but it's today, and so we really need to start tomorrow. And that's the truth, though. We need to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And I'm all for that. I think we got to do that. You know, I understand the need for the maintenance and the preventive maintenance and ongoing. I am a little concerned with the numbers here across the board. I'm concerned about the 1.5. When I look at the 1.5, that really equates to labor cost plus whatever the brokerage fee is or whatever the cost of doing business here. Even though we get 7 full-time staff, you know, you're talking about 110, 120,000 a month, and that excludes equipment and material cost across the board. So there's going to be more cost involved here. So it's just not 1.5. I will ask the question, though, have we talked to some of our local friends in the community that are already using, I'm talking about large campuses that are already using maintenance contracts similar to this, if not equal, or more demanding and complicated. Have we talked to them to see what their actual costs are to do this type of service? And I'm talking about potentially the Pratt Whitneys, the Aflacs. I do know the hospitals are under maintenance contracts, but this number just strikes me as a little extreme for what we're getting here.
Well, and
I know what we're looking at. A lot of this stuff, some of this stuff might not even be addressed. It's on here for the whole year. You may not even need it. It may need a little checkup or something like that. So,
Well-
you ask yourself about the bang for the buck.
Well, and let me just say, Counselor, you know, if there's anything good about CGL is that they've gone through a statewide, international, national process to be selected, you know? And so we know they've gone through a competitive process. And so we could obviously talk to someone at an Aflac, but CGL, I believe, specializes in jails.
Correct.
You know, and I don't know if any of them specialize in jails, but this was a competitive.
Well, and with all due respect, I hear what you're saying. I'm not arguing that point. I mean, I hear that. I know that.
Okay, with all due
Exactly.
respect, you were about to say.
Yeah, with all due respect, I mean, a building's a building and maintenance is maintenance, okay? It just happens to be you have prisoners in cells that are secured and locked up, okay? And, you know, a lot of that stuff can be controlled when I look at it from a building perspective. But the building is a building and maintenance is maintenance.
Well, I tell you what, you know, and I get that from you. But if I'm gonna recommend someone to you and to the sheriff, I want someone who has a proven record with jails. And so, but we can do whatever you want us to do.
No, Mr. City Manager, look, that's
Counselor.
fine. If you think this is a good number, then it's fine. You asked me
Well,
my opinion. I'm
well,
just sharing with you what I feel here. And I asked the question, have we talked to some of our friends in the community to find out
And the response
what
is,
the going rates are?
and the response is no,
Okay.
but
All right.
the confidence that I have in it is that there has been, the state, we purchase vehicles off state contract, everything, because they go through a national procurement process. And they select the best vendor in that process. And so at this point and at this late hour, I want to rely on the state bid.
Okay, well, just keep in fact that there's a lot more money to be tagged on to it. It's just not 1.5.
I understand.
The other thing in looking at that, and I tend to make some calls myself to find out if we're in the ballpark here, because look, you know, everybody knows with government, whether it's Fort Benning or anywhere else, it comes with a premium. I just don't want us to get left holding the bag and having to pay a premium for a service that we don't really have to do that, okay? We've got to build a new jail. And it's like Counselor Tucker said, I would rather see that money going into the new jail and still get the services that are needed on a daily basis.
I agree with all of that, and there's a procurement
And I do
process
think,
for a
I do
reason.
think that we need to keep on the gentleman that can continue on a monthly basis that does the remediation and mitigation and things like that as far as environmental services in the building.
I agree.
I do question the roof. I do question right now if it's, if just patching is in order to get us out. I do like the idea about the stages. I think that's the appropriate way to do it. And spend as little as possible as we go until we get to a new building, because I think that's the right approach. The repair recommendations, I can't go with that. Those are, a lot of this stuff, it's not even life safety matters, but, let's just say if we've got an issue with concerns about the exterior and the exterior falling, then I think I would probably go with the recommendation of just wiring and patching those areas and stapling them down just to make sure that the brick doesn't fall or anything like that happens until we can get to a new building. A lot of these services that I see on here can be done a little bit at a time. That can get us to the point of when we get to a new building. But again, I mean, I said we need it yesterday, but we need to start. That should be where the plan is. And then,
And so,
when I'm
Counselor,
finishing up, I think the things we know that are important, I'm not convinced that the roof is the main culprit. I think the plumbing is, and I think it's gonna be an ongoing issue that you're gonna have to repair. I mean, that's a lot of money per hour, but, I mean, those are things that you're gonna have to stay on top of. And if you do, I'm hoping we can get out another 3, 4, 5 years as we go, and then we can space our resources, our financial resources out to see where exactly we can relook at it and see where we're at. And hopefully, the goal would be to get it out far enough that we can get into a new facility. But again, we need to start tomorrow on a new facility, and I'm ready to do that. Before I just wouldn't sign off on this kind of money. I wouldn't.
well, and I'm not asking you to, and,
Okay.
but what I want you to know is we've relied on SLAM and Gilbane with that list. But if you want to go through and check off what you think needs to be done and fund that, we'll do exactly what you tell us to do.
Yeah, that seems to be a common comeback now these days. Whatever you guys want,
Well,
we'll do
because-
whatever you want.
Because you're not listening.
Well, I don't think Mr. City Manager, we're here. It's question time. You're getting feedback from us. Listen to us take
Okay.
notes,
Let
take
him
notes,
finish.
put it down, write it down, and that's where we're at. We're just trying to help. If you don't want us to contribute, we won't.
I do.
Just go ahead and write the check, and be completely responsible for it.
All
But
right,
we
I think-
represent
I think-
the
I
taxpayers.
think we're all on the same page.
Okay,
And
well,
just
I
trying to-
just-
So let's, and we've got a number of counselors that are in queue. So Counselor Thomas?
Well, Mayor, if I may finish, we're trying to give feedback, we're trying to get input. If y'all don't want it, just let us
No.
know. Okay,
don't-
but
I don't
it's
think
not
anybody-
we're not debating or arguing with anybody, we're just trying to give input. And I have my reasons, and I respect everybody's reasons. I want you to respect my reasons. If you don't like the input I'm giving, then, go in a different direction.
Well, for the record, I'm fine with your input. I think a lot of the things you said I agree with. I'm just saying that if we're through all that, we can move on to another counselor. Counselor Thomas?
Can you tell me the value of 1 day of our reserve? I know we said we had 97.8 days. How much is 1 day worth?
600.
Okay, the finance director will share that with you.
Okay, and while she's doing that, I will remind you that when we established the OLOS, we created new positions in the police department, the sheriff's office, the fire department, I believe the prison, and there was a difference in the OLOS between the number of deputies that we needed, which were people who were out on the street, if you will, and the number of correctional officers, which are the officers that work in the jail. And there were two different numbers given for those. Ms. Alexander, do you have how much the value is?
So the value of a day for FY '24 is $600,509. For FY
6059.
600,509. 600,509. And for FY '25, it's a different number.
600.
FY '25 is 663,884. $663,884.
Okay. If we were to give you the go-ahead tonight, Sheriff Countryman and Director, how long would it take you to make this plan, to get it in process, to get it moving forward? Are we talking months? Are we talking 6 months? Are we talking fiscal '26? What are we talking?
Good evening, and I would like to call on some of my partners here. I don't know if Henry Painter or anybody, or Shane from SLAM. There is a little bit, we haven't designed any of these solutions. We have had the roof, Director Short had the roof evaluated, and so that's a little bit farther along to being able to pull the trigger on that. Some of the larger fixtures, such as the issue with the facade, may take a little bit more design work to finalize a plan on how best to tackle that issue. But work like the hourly rate for the fixing some of the plumbing issues, bringing in the preventative maintenance folks, that all could start pretty much right off the bat.
Well, I guess my point is, if we were to say go tonight, you've got Director Short taking the maintenance, if you will, and Sheriff Countryman taking the security. And my question is, how long will it take for those things to come together for us to say, we'll have a ribbon cutting?
So, again, we would, like I said, Director Short would be able to get the maintenance up and going quickly, and then money on that priority list that was advertised or that was listed, we could get with the sheriff and understand his priorities on the security measures. Is it extra cameras? Is it the glazing? Is there anything else that he knows of that we could get, underway immediately?
Okay, one other question, and this is for the sheriff, if you will. I know that in the past, we have been subject at the jail to numerous federal inspections, and they've come down and said, you're not doing this as you should. Are these issues that we're talking tonight subject to a federal inspection? And if they are, do you have any idea when these guys might show up?
Yes, this is immediate now. I was trying to go back to one of the judges that, who was sitting down with the police chief and I recently, and he was giving us a lesson on the jail and some of the history of the jail. And part of the one of the first lawsuits that was brought by the federal government had to do with inmates sleeping on the floor. If we get beyond jail capacity, we will be in that place. And from my knowledge, from 1984, there was a jail built. 2004, another part of the tower was built. We're in 2024 and we're talking about building. So we're in a place to where we need to be building a jail right now because the population, it seems like it grows every 20 years that we max out where we need to be at. But yes, this is a conversation that is very troubling right now. And if we delay too long, we're going to be in a place where we may not want to be. Because a lot of that has to do with complaints. And some of the complaints we can deal with in-house, and we try to deal with everything that we have, but overcrowding is something that we can't control right now.
And are these, some of these mechanical things and the plumbing and the roof and all, are those also subject to the federal inspection?
Absolutely, absolutely, because a lot of these are complaints. We get them every single day from family members, even things as simple as hot water. We have plumbing issues, but when we have laundry washer machines going for the most part of the day. We have kitchen appliances, dishwashers, and washing dishes and things of that nature. Yes, these are complaints, and if it's not enough of it, the mold was one issue. The ventilation system, the jail wasn't designed for that then. So we're going to get probably bit possibly by a lot of things because the codes were different then. As I heard the city manager mention that a lot of things have changed over the years that we may be out of compliance. And so everything that we're out of compliance on now, or everything that we need to work on, is going to be associated with a cost to it. And so I think, yes, that we need to move forward so that we don't get caught up in any type of federal oversight, because I don't know if it will happen. We are trying to prevent things from happening. And I think that my staff does an excellent job of that. But
well, it seems to me, and I want to make sure that you and everybody else understands that I want our jail to be as functional as possible. I want us to do everything we can to make it right.
Right.
But I also want us to make sure that we are counting all the money that we're going to need. We're going to need money for the repairs. We're going to need money for new staff. We're going to need money for, in case we get a federal inspection suit, that's not cheap. We have to pay for it. We have to pay for lawyers and all of those kinds of things. And it seems to me that at this point, at any rate, we don't have all that information. And I'd like for us to be sure that we get all that information before we are asked to vote. I mean, $1.5 million ain't gonna do anything. I mean, not with the kind of thing that you're talking to us about tonight. So I really would like to see a full budget from the sheriff's department, or the sheriff's office, and the public works department, and what is it gonna take, and how long will it take, and where can we get that money? If we've got 97 days in the 98 days in the reserve, is there any of that money? Those kinds of questions we need to have answers to. And I don't feel like we have those answers right now. And I'd like to have them before I'm asked to make a decision on how much money we're going to spend. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Counselor Begley?
Just to make sure I understand, if hypothetically, if everyone on council said, we want a new jail, what would be the steps need to be taken by council as well as by the city and the timeline? Just so I understand, like if we were saying, hey, we're absolutely going to start a new jail, what kind of timeline are we looking at before, we get bonds, before we can find location? I mean, that sounds like a very long duration, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about how long that would take if we started immediately.
Brian, you want?
So, we have started the process with this same team of SLAM and Gilbane and partners. And we are very close, and I don't have an exact council meeting when we could present the final report from the first phase of that effort, which was the programming and planning phase of, here's how big a new facility would have to be, here's how many beds it would need to be, here's, what type of beds between the mental health, the kind of maximum security beds to general population that has all been reviewed by the sheriff. So we are very close. And then you're right, the question is, we know how big it is, where can it go? How can it fit on the existing site? What other locations could it be built at? And all those things would have to be taken into consideration. So that first phase, we're 99% complete, really just putting a bow on it, and then we can come to council and present that and get further direction from the council on, which option we want to move forward with. It is from currently where we're at. If we had all those questions, which are big questions, figured out, and we had the funding source identified, from that point, I would estimate another year to year and a half of design, and then, another 2.5 to 3.5 years of construction is what we would be looking at.
And I was just gonna say, so you're talking 5 to 4.5 to 5?
Yeah.
Right, and that, of course, if we're acquiring property, that may be,
Right.
all those unknowns is something that we'd have to work.
Yeah, I think I heard 4 years once those unknowns get figured out. And so, to your point, it would take time to find a location. From a financing perspective, I'm assuming this would take bonds. Does that have to go to a citizen vote, or is that something that council would have the authority to do for the bonds? Or like what options will we have for financing? That may be a city attorney question.
It's like one more time, I don't see it on there. You go hit it harder. There you go.
Okay, I think we talked about some of this before, but it would be, you're looking at, for a new facility, possibly using bonds such as the building authority or development authority bonds may be a possibility, but general obligation bonds would have to be voted on at referendum.
And I assume we've missed, is it possible to get it on this year's referendum, or are we looking at a couple of years to even get it on a referendum?
Well, we need to talk to finance, or financial advisors. There may be a chance you could get something on the ballot in November, probably not before that.
What would be the deadline to get it on the November ballot?
It's all a 60-day window the Board of Elections needs, but you've got to have a proposed budget and an amount for the voters to look at a concept.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. If we still need to figure out how much space we need, and then need to figure out the location, which could be land acquisition, and then we have to figure out the design so we can get a budget, do we have enough time to get this on the November ballot in 2024?
We'd have to get input from finance.
Yeah, because I guess it depends on your funding source, but City Attorney, I think you said it. It gotta be 60 days with elections to get it on the ballot.
Yeah, you would need some kind of a council vote on a final figure with a proposed budget concept in August.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, so
Because,
it's like 2 months away.
yeah, to get it, I mean, you need all of September, October to give you the 60 days that elections will require that they have it to go on the ballot. So you'd have to make a decision July, no later than August.
And so I guess going back to Director Pruitt, there were a couple open questions around getting the amount of, I know you're figuring out the needs now, and then there's figuring out land, and there's working with the sheriff to understand the design. And I mean, is that something that happens in the next 2 months? Because if it's not, I feel like we've already missed the 2024 ballot.
So our initial scope of work in the contract agreements that we have with our design and construction teams included this first phase, which was the programming phase, and then it would move into what we call schematic design, which would get, a lot more detail into the layout. We would have a site, we would have a layout, we would have more detail to look at, and so that is, I believe scheduled was a 14-week activity, which we haven't kicked off yet because we're still wrapping up that first part. So if you do that math, we would, the current plan we have would not be completed enough to have those budget figures ready for an August vote. And the issue with, in my opinion, proceeding without having more detail is that, obviously you're taking a risk that whatever budget we could come up with in the next 2 months wouldn't be accurate for what we needed to do.
So if we've missed the 2024, that means it would have to be in the 2026 ballot, and then again, go into that 4 years. So we're talking about 2030 before there's a new jail.
Unless you go for a different
Yeah.
funding source, like building authority.
Okay. All right. And part of this is just trying to understand, if we're going to be stuck with this longer, does that raise the urgency of these repairs if we are going to have it more long-term? So I think understanding the duration of the current facility helps us evaluate how much money we need to put into it.
And we can come back to you with funding options, whether it be GO or building authority, and then we could try and put together a timeline. Could we do that by next Tuesday? A timeline? No, I'm saying a timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, that you wouldn't hold us, but we'd tell you that here's what, because right now he's talking off the cuff.
Right, and I think it's helpful because I'm struggling with this. I'm sure, because all of a sudden I hear 2030. I'm like, that's not a number we want to hear. And so we need to understand our options and also understand the timing urgency. Okay.
Counselor Tucker?
Well, and they're suggesting that we could come back on the 18th with more information.
I'd rather have them spend a little bit more time and get it right than to be rushed.
One of the things that Counselor Thomas asked was to bring us a detailed list. I would also request, in reference to the preventative maintenance, the preventative maintenance is the $1.5 million, right? So right now, looking at that, it's like we're paying $214,285.71 per person. Because you don't have a breakdown of where that $1.5 million is going.
Well, if you don't mind, so that is for 3 different locations. That 1.5 is not just for the jail. It's for Recorder's Court, MCP, and the jail.
Yeah, but it's 7 people. Okay, so it's 7 people, and in looking at the breakdown for 7 people, we're paying $214,000 per person.
Yeah, if you divide 1.5 by 7, that's what you get.
So that's a substantial amount of money per person. It really is. And I really want some help, because I know that the sheriff needs this help desperately. But it's kind of slapping the face of our city employees, especially somebody coming in making $214,000. That's a lot of money per person. I mean, that's just me just speaking transparently, and I just think that's a lot of money. So if that is, so is it the breakdown just their salary? Is that what the country?
No.
So that's why I'm.
That is just an estimate that they
Typically,
gave.
there's a management fee, as Councilor Davis said, on top. I mean, they're not gonna get paid like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's what I'm saying. If you look at what's presented, I mean, the only thing you can do is make assumptions, and I don't want to assume anything because we know what that stands for. But to have an accurate account for 1.5, we need a breakdown. Are we paying these individuals 214, 41, whatever it was that I said, dollars, or is it some cost associated with the contract? Just to show, because that right there is a.
and I think it's reasonable to request that, because, you got all kinds of insurance tied up in that, you could
We can
ask.
go back and just give them the one building and ask for an exact quote price breakdown on what it will cost just for that building.
Right, and then have them break it down based on itemized.
Right.
Based on.
What that fee is for.
Because, I mean, if they break it down, because, you're gonna have salaries and wages, you're gonna have their management fee on top, you're gonna have the workers' comp insurance, you're gonna have all the other insurances, and, and they're gonna pay, and they're gonna pay taxes, employer tax, and, I mean, all that stuff, I'm sure is, of course, no doubt, is all in there. If you could get them to break it down for you a little bit, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
And just one more comment, Mayor. Ms. Boren has let me know by text that if you're looking at a call for an election referendum on general obligation debt, the last date for the call to be published would be August 7th to get it on a November ballot.
Okay. Counselor Davis?
Yeah, I'm really, knowing that you gotta do it, I mean, I'm not really sure why we would do a referendum at this point unless we're looking for a dedicated revenue source. How far are we into this last penny? Till another penny comes up? 3 years, are we in it 3 years now?
6 more years? Yeah, on the sales, special purpose local option sales tax.
6 more years?
6 more years.
Well, I keep thinking, I guess the best way, if we could ever bridge, if we could bridge to get to that point, would be ideal, and yes, that would be a referendum, but it's a dedicated revenue source to kind of secure all that, solves everything. And you can go ahead and pay off all your debt at that point if you so desire, but, I mean, this is one of those things that you just, even if it's voted down, you still gotta do it the next day.
Yeah.
So, we're just gonna have to deal with it, and like I said, the easiest way is to try to bridge to get out to a dedicated revenue source to ultimately cover the whole cost of it, so you don't have to long-term pass that burden on to
the future citizens of Columbus, Georgia, and at the same time, you can get it done. But somebody said earlier about acquiring land. I think that's one thing we could do now if needed, is control from that standpoint. But anyway, there you go.
And the unfortunate thing with, you know, the state of the building itself is that 4.5 to 5 years, you're gonna put we're gonna spend a lot of money that we're not gonna get back. I mean, that's just clear to me, over the next 5 years. And so, you know, I think you gotta do it in phases and try and keep people safe, but figure out how to be frugal in your spending. Any other questions, Mayor?
Doesn't appear to be any,
Okay,
no, sir.
we'll come back in 2 weeks, I guess the 18th, and maybe provide some more information, timeline, trying to answer some of the questions that you've put on the table. Mayor, that's all I have today.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For the clerk's agenda, item 1, this is a
Motion second to review, to receive the minutes. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, they're received.
Next, we have board appointments. Mr. Mayor, we have your appointment listed for the Pension Fund Employees Board of Trustees.
I'm still working on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 3 are council appointments that are ready for confirmation. For the Columbus Aquatics Commission, Ms. Jensen Melton was nominated.
Motion second to confirm. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? They're confirmed.
Next, for the Columbus Golf Course Authority, Mr. Richard Mahone was nominated to serve another term.
All right, there's a motion second to confirm Mr. Mahone and Houston. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, they're both
Next, we have the Keep
confirmed.
Columbus Beautiful Commission. Ms. Carol Brakefield was nominated to succeed Ms. Tracy Walton King.
Motion second to approve Ms. Brakefield and Ms. Dexter. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, they're confirmed.
Next, we have council district seat appointments for the Youth Advisory Council. We have outlined districts 2, 4, 5, and 8. Next, we have council appointments. Any nominations would be listed for the next meeting. We have the seats for the Columbus Aquatics Commission, the seats of Timothy Crabb, Richard Leary, Janet Bussey, and Bruce Samuels. These seats are open for nominations. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, okay, Counselor Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let council and our community know that Ms. Davis and I have been working together with a couple of folks in the community to take a look at entering the process that we need to do to rename a facility in Columbus, to rename the Double Churches Pool in honor of Miss Joni Ressmeyer. Miss Ressmeyer passed away in the last week or so, but she taught, I've been told, thousands of kids how to swim at that Double Churches pool. And I just wanted the council and folks to know that we're in the process of trying to see if that's something that we really want to do and rename the pool in her honor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good, thank you, ma'am. Counselor Kogle?
I know that Councilor Begley's time is coming to an end, and we're looking ahead at our audit committee, and know that we have to replace Councilor Begley on the audit committee as the audit committee chair or some capacity, and so I'd like to nominate Councilor Davis to succeed Counselor Begley on the audit committee. I
Okay,
think he had yielded to him before, so just as a back reference.
all right, well, there's motion second to put, I guess, Counselor Davis in the queue so that when Counselor Begley is no longer on the audit committee. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, and we did have, yeah, we've got Miss Elamina, we had announced that she would be giving her 3 minutes when she arrived. So Miss Elamina, if you want to come to the podium, we'll give you your 3 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
We started talking on this topic of reparations a couple of years ago, and I've spoken quite a bit to the city manager. When I work on major ordinances like this with cities, like the anti-sweatshop ordinance in the city of Durham, which was historic and international, I work directly with the city manager. And the reason why I say 2028, because it takes a lot of time to put together something comprehensive, because Columbus is unique. Not the only city founded during slavery, Atlanta was as well. But Columbus is particularly unique in that the mayor has term limits, but the city council members don't. So there are a lot of little quirky things about Columbus that everybody starts saying charter, charter, charter. So as the community discusses this whole issue of reparations, we're talking about repairing systems, not just what has been done to people economically. What are the things that exclude people, like consolidating the government? Most cities, I know, would not consolidate because it has a history of diluting Black political power. And I think that it's most certainly been true in this city. So these are the kinds of things that you talk about when you talk about repairing the damage of excluding people. When there were once employees in public works, and then it went to prison labor. How did that happen? These are the kinds of conversations the community needs to have. How did white supremacy prevail in a community that is majority people of color? And why does it appear to persist this day, even when you look at this body of elected people? So that is what I'm exploring. But a quick announcement, June 18th, everybody's saying, get me the tickets, get me the tickets. Well, it's set up for 60 people. And Mr. Mayor, I will get that proclamation draft to you because I do want you to come and grace us with your presence. June 18th, 6 p.m. It's election day, so it'll be a little bit of a vote count thing. You know what I mean? So we'll be looking to see how that turns out.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for letting me come and do my little 3-minute thing. We had a great meeting on fatherhood. Thanks to Mr. Broadwater. He was so upset because he didn't realize there was a meeting tonight. And you know he prioritizes this.
He does. Thank you, Ms. Elamine.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we did have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel. Is there a second? All right, motion and second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in executive session. All right, we are back in regular session. We went into executive session in order to discuss personnel issues, and there were no votes taken by the council. Well, we did have a request to remind everybody that on the 18th, the council will be meeting in the school board's building because that is election day, and our elections folks will be pretty busy here. So, all right, motion to adjourn, is there a second? Really? All right, motion second to adjourn, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.